You can't wait on their affirmation. You can't wait on their approval. You can't wait on their support. Sometimes you just gotta run and look behind you and say, everybody wants to run, but I can't stop running because you're not running with me. Listen to me, hear me. You can't stop chasing your dream just because somebody in your life is chasing with you. You can't stop believing in yourself just because somebody in your life will believe in you. You can't stop chasing the dreams of your life just because when you know when you do it, you're gonna have to do it all by yourself. You can't wait on their affirmation. You can't wait on their approval. You can't wait on their support. Sometimes you just gotta run and look behind you and say, everybody who wants to run, but I can't stop running because you're not running with me. Listen to me, hear me. You can't stop chasing your dream just because somebody in your life is chasing with you. You can't stop believing in yourself just because somebody in your life will believe in you. You can't stop chasing the dreams of your life just because when you know when you do it, you're gonna have to do it all by yourself.
Pause. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of English Live, which is for our Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 learners. But anybody of any age is welcome to join in any of my lessons. And today we will be looking at writing important letters. So how they should be laid out on the page, how you should structure what you put in your letter, and the sort of language you should use, so whether it's formal or informal. Okay, so great fun-packed lesson for you today, but a few things first. So we always do this because sometimes I have lovely new learners join me, and I think it's important that they know what to do. So parents, you can download a PDF that looks like this from my Facebook group called English Live Resources, and it has 6 different tasks. They are not aimed at any specific age or key stage, but they're more suited to different learning styles and learning needs. So you just pick the activity or activities that best suit your learner and feel free to adapt them in a way that suits you and your family. So you can download that after the lesson. You don't need it now. And you can also, in the same group, upload any pictures and videos of the work that you do after this lesson, okay? I absolutely love seeing the different work that comes out of these lessons. There's been some fantastic videos the last few days. I'm going to share some of them on the main English with Holly page later today. They absolutely cracked me up, some of them. Really funny ones following on from the persuasive techniques lesson. Okay, so a few hellos. There are lots of hellos today. Most of you will know that my mum sits at home 30, 40 miles away and picks out as many as she can from the live chat and sends me a message to tell me who to give a shout out to. So a big hello to, here we go, Claire and Maisie in Royston, to Ali, 10 in Leeds, who's watching with his dog Barney, while I'm teaching with my dog Bertie. Hello to Shreya and Yashni, to Maddie in year 3. Hello to Benjamin, Jack, who is 11 in Hales Owen, Elsie and her dog Bobo, Simran in the USA. Where are we? So many of you. Greta, 8 in Malvern, everyone in Pontypridd, Tony, who is 10 in Cardiff. Hello to Rose Baker, Ethan and the whole of Purton School in Wolverhampton. And also a massive hello to everybody in year 3 at Dame Allen's Junior School who are watching this lesson as a follow-up to a topic they have been doing on authors and letters. Lovely to have all of you with me, and a very big shout out to your lovely teacher, Mrs. Forster, as well. Right, so let's get on with the lesson. More shout outs to come, so don't worry if you didn't get your shout out straight away. So every lesson we start with a starter activity just to get our brains working a little bit. I know some of you are having nice long lie-ins in the morning because you're not getting up for school. So this will hopefully just get our brains moving around a little bit. So I've got this word here, correspondence, and it relates to letter writing. If you know what it means, great. And if you don't, it's a little extra task for you after the lesson to look it up in a dictionary. How many words can you make from the letters in this word? Okay, I'm going to give you a minute and a half to do this. You can shout them out at the screen, you can talk to them with the people in the room with you, or you can jot them down, completely up to you. Or you can just have a little dance around to the music. Okay, I'll bring it closer. There you go. Good luck. Play. Okay, how many did you get? Did you come up with 2, 3, 4, 5? Did you come up with loads? Hopefully now your brain is working and you're ready to do a little bit of learning. So our first task today is going to be looking at how you would structure the top part of your letter. Okay, so this is more for an important or formal letter. If you're just writing a little love note to your mum or a birthday card, you probably wouldn't need to do this. I will bring it closer in a moment. So as we do a few of these tasks, you can jot down your own examples and you can make them relevant to you. That's not a problem, okay? So how you would structure the top of the page if you're writing an important letter. You would start with your name and your address on this side, and it would be aligned to this side of the page. And then underneath that, you'd have the recipient's name. So the recipient is the person who receives your letter and their address, and that would be aligned to this side of the page. And then you would have the date, and then more often than not, you would have re, which stands for regarding, and you would put what the letter is about. So what is the letter regarding? So what is the topic or title of your letter? That's where you would put it. Okay, so I'm going to give you about a minute to jot this down. You can either jot down what needs to go where, or you can just write down an example one, and you can make up an imaginary address for you and an imaginary address for the person that you're going to send a letter to. Okay, it's just practice. We're just making sure we know how these letters should be laid out at this stage. Okay, good luck. Off you go. Play.
You can't wait on their affirmation. You can't wait on their approval. You can't wait on their support. Sometimes you just gotta run and look behind you and say, everybody who wants to run, but I can't stop running because you're not running with me. Listen to me, hear me. You can't stop chasing your dream just because somebody in your life is chasing it. You can't stop believing in yourself just because somebody in your life won't believe in you. You can't stop chasing the dreams of your life just because when you know when you do it, you're gonna have to do it all by yourself.
Pause. Okay, you've made a few notes by now, hopefully, or you've got some ideas down on the page to remind yourself when you come to writing a letter after this lesson, how information should be laid out on the page. Now, after you've done this bit, you're going to address your letter to somebody. And there are lots of different ways that you can address your letter. Now, I'd like to talk about formal or informal. Lots of you will already understand this concept. For most of you, it will just be a refresher, but for some of you, it might be a new idea. So, formal and informal, what is the difference? Well, if you're writing in a formal way, you're going to be writing in standard English. So there's not going to be lots of lols or casual conversation in your writing. It's going to be in standard English. And informal would be more relaxed. Okay, so formal is something that you would use for your teachers or writing important letters, and informal is something that you would use if you were writing to your friends or your family. Now, I've got lots of different introductions here, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to try and separate them out into formal or informal. Okay, now the name of the person might give you a little indication of whether it's a formal or informal letter. I'm sure you're going to be absolutely fine with this task. Put them into two lists. You can shout it out at the screen or you can write them down, whatever works best for you. Off you go. Play. What do you think, Bertie? Pause. How did you do? How did you get on? Well, did you find it easy or difficult to separate these names out, or these ways of addressing your letter? Did you find it easy or difficult to separate them out into formal or informal? Well, let's have a look at a couple of them just to see if we were along the right lines. To whom it may concern. Well, that's definitely a formal one, and that's one that you would use if you're writing a letter that a particular person should take note of, but you don't know the name or position of that particular person. To my dear friend. Well, that one, it's written in a slightly formal way, but that is an informal that is an informal way of starting off your letter. So we know from that the letter is going to be to somebody who's close to you, that you're going to be able to write to them in a way that is quite relaxed and informal. Okay, so a couple of, well, more than a couple of hellos, they're pouring in today. Happy birthday to Harrison. It's your 9th birthday today. I hope you're enjoying your day and you're enjoying your lesson. And happy birthday to Maeve in Northern Ireland. I hope you're having a lovely day as well with your sister. And hello to Willow in the Chilterns, who sent me a fabulous English joke the other day, which was, what's the difference between a cat and a comma? One has got claws at the end of his paws and one has a pause at the end of a clause. Absolutely fantastic, Willow. I loved it. It did make me chuckle. So hello to Ria in London, Philippa in Cheltenham, Mia and Edward in St Albans, Sophie, who is 8, Alice, who is 8 in Nottingham, and I think that's everybody on this list so far. So once you've written who you're going to be addressing in your letter, you will need to think about what will happen in the body of your letter. Now, if you've been doing letters and writing letters at school, you will have spent lots of lessons looking at this and lots of information about how to introduce paragraphs and structure sentences. But this is just a 20-30 minute tutorial with some tasks to do afterwards. So we're not going to go into too much detail today. But I think it's important for me to explain these 4 different ideas. So when you're writing a letter, once you've said who it's to, you will have a short introduction. So if it's a formal letter, you'll be introducing who you are and why you're writing your letter. If it's to a family member or a friend, you'll be explaining to them why you're writing, or saying hello, asking some questions, and maybe telling them some information about you or what's going on in your life. You will split your letter out into paragraphs. Now, some people struggle a bit with what to put in which paragraph. And just remember that a paragraph is like a topic in itself. So if you've got 3 different topics you're going to talk about, so if you're writing to the council about how they should be spending their money, you might have 1 paragraph about recycling facilities, 1 paragraph about park facilities, for, things for children, and you might have another paragraph about how clean the streets are kept, for example. Okay, so it's a topic per paragraph. And topic sentences are really important. It's the first sentence at the top of each paragraph that introduces what that paragraph is going to be about. And it's a way of structuring your letter so that it flows and it makes sense and it allows the reader to understand where you are going with your letter. Okay. And finally, make it interesting. Okay. Use lots of wow words, some really interesting vocabulary. You can make a few jokes. You can say things that are heartwarming if it's appropriate, if it's an informal letter, or even if it's a formal letter, but it's appropriate. Try and vary up what you're talking about and how you're talking about it, and try to avoid using the same sentence structure over and over, okay, if you're trying to make that letter really interesting. Okay, before we move on to our next task, I would like to tell you about a competition that I will be running over the next week. So I'm going to be doing a letter writing competition, and it's open to Key Stage 1 right the way through to Key Stage 3. There will be 3 different prizes available, so 3 different awards. There will be 1 for the most heartwarming letter, 1 for the most amusing letter, and 1 for the most technically impressive letter. Okay, so you've got 1 week to write your letter to enter into the competition, and that means the competition will close on Thursday next week, and I will announce the winner on Friday the 8th of May in the Spellathon, so that's Friday next week. I will post lots more information about this competition on my Facebook page after the lesson, including what the prizes are, but if you're interested, you will want to take note of this lesson, probably the vocabulary lesson that we did yesterday, and the persuasive writing lesson as well. That's got some really good ideas that will improve the quality of your letter. So we will move on now. Do you know the difference between these different ways of closing your letter? We've got yours sincerely, yours faithfully, kind regards, and with love. Which one would you use where? Well, yours sincerely and yours faithfully can both be used in a formal way for a formal letter. The difference is lots of people are unsure which one they should use. And generally speaking, yours faithfully should be used if you're addressing your letter to someone who doesn't have a name, so to whom it may concern, or to the proprietor, then you would be using yours faithfully on the end of your letter. Whereas if you had a name in your addressing of the letter, so if you were writing your letter to Mrs. Forster, or if you were writing your letter to Dr. Range, you would close your letter with yours sincerely, okay? So that's the easiest way to remember it. Is there a personal name in who you've addressed it to? And if there is, you would use sincerely. Kind regards is a bit more informal and really widely and commonly used these days. And with love, well, you would probably use that one for people you care deeply about, so your family and friends. So I'm going to give you about a minute, and I want you to come up with a list of people that you would close your letters to in each of these ways. So you'll write down yours sincerely, and you might come up with 2 or 3 different people that you would use that for, and do that for each of them. Okay, good luck, off you go. Play.
can't wait on other people to be what you've been called. You can't wait on their affirmation. You can't wait on their approval. You can't wait on their support. Sometimes you just gotta run and look behind you and say, everybody who wants to run, but I can't stop running because you're not running. Listen to me, hear me. You can't stop chasing your dream just because somebody in your life is chasing with you. You can't stop believing in yourself just because somebody in your life will believe in you. You can't stop chasing the dreams of your life just because when you know when you do it, you're gonna have to do it all by yourself. Pause. Okay, hopefully you've got some ideas for each of these ways of closing your letter, and hopefully you will remember which one to use when you're writing letters after this lesson. So there are some letter writing tasks on the task sheet that I explained at the start of the lesson. But if you want to just practice writing letters, that's absolutely fine. And obviously, if you wanted to do a letter for my letter writing competition, then you could do that separately from the tasks as well. So a few hellos before we move on to the very last task. So hello to the Oren twins who have been watching every day. Well, I've been teaching every day, snap. Hello to George and James in Consett, to Fred in South Devon, to Joe Retford, who has watched every day as well, and to Amelia in Eaglescliffe. So hello to all of you, and thank you for joining my lessons. I hope you're enjoying them. Right, so our very last task, it's a very simple one, and it's just a reminder. How do you address your envelope? Okay, so some of you will already know this, and maybe you've received letters during lockdown and you've seen letters come in this way. So again, it is just a refresher. So you'd put your stamp in the top corner up here, and you would put who your letter is addressed to. So this one says, to the head teacher, Holly's Global School, Leighton Buzzard, Bedfordshire, and then this here is the postcode. So that tells the postal service which street or which section of a street that the letter should go to. This is not my real address. This is not a real address. I just made this up as an example for the lesson. But you'd have a comma after each one. And if you wanted to be extra safe, on the back of your envelope, you can put your name, your house number, and your postcode. And if your letter got lost, then they'd be able to return it to you. So what I would like you to do is quickly just jot down how your address, if people were writing to you, would look. So it's just a quick practice for how it should be laid out on the page. I'm only going to give you a minute to do this. If you don't want to do your actual address, you could do your fantasy address. That might be quite fun. Okay, you can get creative. Off you go. Play.
Okay, so hopefully you've had a little practice doing that, and I'm covered in dog slobber from dancing with Bertie. You will know how to address your letter when you post it. So this brings us to the end of my lesson. It's just a short 30-minute lesson to get you thinking about different topics in English, and there are a wide range of activities for you to do on the task sheet after the lesson. As I always say, there are 6 different activities that are aimed at different learning styles and learning needs. So it's not specifically aimed at any particular age or year group. You just do the tasks that motivate you and make you want to learn a bit more about English. Okay. I will post details of my letter writing competition on Facebook after this lesson. I hope you have a lovely afternoon. Bertie, do you want to say a quick goodbye to everybody? Come here. Bertie's going to say goodbye to you all now. Here he is. From me and from Bertie, have a lovely afternoon, and I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow for the Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 4 Spellathon. Make sure you get lots of your friends and family involved in that competition, okay? And I love to hear when the children beat the adults. Play. Take care. Bye-bye for now.